Dennis.
What's up, Jeff?
Oh man, it's beautiful here in Oregon. Got a blue skies, puffy clouds. It's going to be in the 70s today.
We've had a couple of rain showers come through. A threat of a tornado, but that's common this time of year.
Tornadoes?
Tornadoes, oh yeah.
All we have out here in Oregon are volcanoes.
Well, either one of them, you're going to be in for trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, as usual, it's always great to spend some time with you. We've had a nice history over the last couple of years working together, and some cool projects.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to chat with you a bit about this idea of how can we make ACE a more diverse organization.
And here at Kentucky State University, you know, we deal with diversity a lot because of the nature of our university, which is a historically black university. We do a lot with promoting an equal playing field for all participants in our community, especially in our extension side of our land grant program, which deals a lot with the community and a lot of the underserved.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, we have a strong interest in diversity. We even have a young lady by the name of Nancy Callax, who is on staff as one of our diversity trainers.
Yeah, I've been seeing her name associated with a number of communications about diversity, and we'll be talking a little bit more about some of the things she offers up for ACE to help us become a more diverse organization. Nancy gave us this definition of diversity: socially transmitted worldview learned and shared by a group that influences their values, beliefs, customs, and behaviors, and is reflected in their language, material, culture, food, and social institutions. That covers a lot of territory.
It does, but when I look at the word group, a group can be your own family circle.
And it can be ACE.
Yes, and that family circle is what you kind of brought up on, at least for me, on how to think about the world, let alone your fellow man.
Yeah, I think this idea of ACE is a family, too.
And ACE is a family. I believe that there are a lot of members there that do the same thing we do on a daily basis, and for that reason, you know, we kind of share a common goal.
This is a description of how diversity can be expressed. And this is interesting because some of us pick only one of these, or maybe two, and don't think about all of the shades and colors and nuances of diversity. So here it reminds us that diversity includes race, which is usually the one that people kind of stop at, but also it's sex, age, physical and mental ability, sexual orientation, religion, class, philosophy, and culture. And I'm going to add another one that came in from Ariel Ginsberg.
You know, one thing that's a little more difficult in terms of diversity is maybe people that come from a lot different economic backgrounds, who's privileged enough to come here. And I know that ACE has a fund and can offer scholarships, or so to speak, to people who want to come to this and whose universities can't afford to send them.
I think if you embraced everything that this phrase is stating, that would make you a more open-minded person. And some people don't want to feel that way. They don't want to be that open-minded because it might affect them in their own home life.
Yeah. I think all of us have those cultural influences, and how to really see them and know when you're being influenced by those.
Yes.
It's difficult. It's like a fish in water. Sometimes you don't know about the water.
You know, I took that same idea and attitude from the very beginning into my first experience with ACE, looking around at the members and feeling that certain things just didn't fit the criteria I was used to, and that wasn't right because I didn't look at it as an open-minded person as I see it now, from making myself available to be more involved. And I think that's a key too. You have to open up yourself to be more involved with your surroundings to understand it.
So we posed these two questions to start our conversations with our guests that we interviewed. What would it be like to have a more diverse organization? We just finished our first 100 years. So the question becomes, what might ACE be like in the next 100 years?
I would hope it would be a more diverse organization. Diversity is not always just ethnic groups, but I would like to see more people of color in ACE. I think that's important. African American, Latinos, more participation from the 1994 institutions. I think that is very important. So in the next 100 years, I would hope that ACE would reflect how the society looks in the United States and all over the world, since it is an international organization.
And the third one there is people of diverse ages. At one time, I thought I'd never grow old. And,
Sorry to bring you the bad news, Dennis.
but now that I am supposedly old, and I do see younger faces, those are what helps keep an organization flowing, keep it going, keep it thriving.
We need to be thinking a little bit about how it is that these younger folks want to receive information, and it could be very different than what we're used to. And I think it's all about trying to break out of the box, right?
That's right.
I mean, it's not just the internal ACE, it's our client base as well. So everything we're talking about can be applied in your personal life and in your social life, interaction with the world, and within ACE.
Yes.
So it all comes down again to personal stories
Yes.
that help us better understand these issues. So here's a statement about a diverse organization that we got from Nancy Calick. So a diverse organization is an organization where our values, beliefs, customs, and behaviors welcome or include those who bring differences to the group, both internally and externally. The individuals that we welcome are both in employment and with the people in the community or other stakeholders.
A cultural tip that the Diversity SIG has started to put together for each month of the year, and I believe the month of June shows more inclusion of different groups to bring together a strong push in certain businesses.
So Dennis and I are struggling too to find out what it is that we as individuals can do. So we've got a few points that we've heard from our SIG leaders in diversity, and
Yes.
let's take a look at some of those.
The first one is, at the next conference, during a large group event, sit with folks that you don't know. These are unstaged events that really bring out a better feel for each other.
It takes breaking away from the temptation to sit at the same table with your coworkers. We all do that.
We do. I'm guilty of it as well.
Yeah, there's nobody who's doing this right or wrong. It's all of us tend to go with our comfort zones. So another thing is to learn something about the people from different cultures, how they communicate. And that may mean how they interpret things visually, how they like to see things written. It could even deal with things like the color schemes that are attractive to their cultural perspective. And we've got a clip from Denise Velasquez-Manaz that talks about exactly this thing.
Okay, so one of the things that I think that you might want to look into is perhaps how to tap into diversity markets, because you do have a growing diverse population, and so as we look into tapping into those markets, the way that you communicate is it could differ from group to group. So perhaps how do we deal as communicators or as universities or as programs, how can we attract these different populations who we're trying to attract, recruit, retain, or engage.
Now, how do we find the right language and the right images and that kind of thing to attract a more diverse group of communicators?
That's a question that I think needs to be researched, or I mean, you could probably look at what's already been done, like the case studies, or universities or programs or organizations that have success in that area, and that could come and present on that.
And I believe that ACE needs to provide some leadership for professional development, along these lines.
Yeah, they need to model this to the organization. You need to tap into diversity markets. We have to find out more about where these people are in terms of receiving messages about getting involved with ACE. It's going to be an interesting challenge, but perhaps there are some lessons we can learn that make our materials, our graphical materials, our written materials, our visual materials, just more accessible in a broad way. So another way to do this is for all of us to try to take up the opportunities when they arise to get involved with some professional development about diversity.
Exploring personal and cultural values based on prejudices and views, that one, it takes a lot. It really takes you to really want to expose yourself when the question comes back to you if you're going to ask these questions. It also makes you a better person because you should be hearing yourself explain your views to someone you really don't know and to get a true opinion of it.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned earlier how this is such a personal thing. It takes a certain amount of sort of belly button gazing at yourself. No one could do it for you.
No, this is all you. Our audience and our members are changing. If we want to include everyone, we have to change with the way life is and the people around us. Are supposedly the population of minorities was that the second largest group in the United States was African American, and they expect the Latino population to overtake that. So the changes are going to happen, whether we want them or not. How do we prepare ourselves to be a part of that?
I think ACE could be a lot more interesting with a lot more diversity of thinking, and it's not just about how people look. It's
Right.
about how they think and their perspectives.
Whether you're on the board or a SIG chair, vice chair, you can't come in thinking that you're going to be a part of a group that's basically thinking like you do. That's why you joined it. And where do you reach out to African Americans? Are we reaching out to just your local community? My thought was, why aren't there many HBCUs in ACE? As I learned later, that is not so much of a race thing, it's an economic thing.
Ah.
So therefore, if economic is the factor, how do we convince our administrators that they need to inform the administrators on these campuses how important ACE is?
If one of the barriers for diversity is the economic question, then perhaps the organization needs to look at some alternatives for membership fees, conference attendance fees, perhaps some kind of a business model that gives some support to potential members who don't have the same resources financially to join. So that's a challenge for them.
But here at Kentucky State, we are creating a equity and inclusion COP that they're going to offer next fall. So there are some courses that we're going to train our staff that's in the diversity area before we go out into the world or attend any of the organizations, so that we'll be more equipped, more informed.
Is that going to be on e-extension, that COP?
I believe so.
Great.
We have to continue with diversity as a main forefront, and let's do some things to bring it to people's attention. And that's where we're at now. But we would love to get more people involved, because the more ideas, the better. This is not a black-white thing.
The world is changing,
Yes.
and for the better, because I think diversity makes a far more interesting world, far more ideas, and I think it's just a great opportunity for an organization to start to embrace that diversity, right?
And we are leaders here at ACE. I believe everyone who attends ACE are leaders in some capacity at their institution. I myself, I'm the chair of our coordinator of our video production department. And I'm in contact with a lot of people. What better way for me to understand my clients than to be a part of a diversity organization as good as ACE offers and to learn?
It's a wonderful organization, and we can make it even more wonderful.
Yes.
Well, Dennis, thanks so much for chatting with me, and it's always a pleasure. And we'll leave people with the idea that this is really, the ball is in their court, how to become more aware of some diversity issues, how to take advantage of professional development, and wow, just how to enjoy the diversity of ACE as it's changing right now.
And if anyone wants to give this gentle giant a hug, my arms are open.
Okay, Dennis.
All right.